Man is not made to be an island, but America turned him into a brand. You weren't born broken. You were born unfinished. But somewhere along the way you were told to pretend you were whole. That the way to be strong was to never need anyone. That the path to success was paved by isolation. That your value depended on how efficiently you could hide your pain. And you tried. God, you tried. You became the strong one, the silent one, the reliable one, the one who carried everything on your back and told no one it was breaking you. You thought that was manhood. You thought that was freedom. But what if I told you you've been recruited? Not into a religion of spirit, but a cult of self. Because in America today we don't worship gods. We worship identity, productivity, image, autonomy, self-optimization, and we call it freedom. But it's not freedom if you have to hide to be accepted. It's not liberation if you have to perform to belong. It's not power if your soul is starving. This isn't about politics. This is about your sanity. You were taught to escape shame by becoming untouchable. But all that did was isolate you from your own humanity. And the cost? You don't know who you are without the performance. You don't trust love unless you earned it through sacrifice. You don't feel safe unless you're alone. And you call that strength. But what if it's not strength? What if it's survival? And what if the price of survival is your soul? Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And Nietzsche declared God is dead. But what he warned next is what we ignored, the danger of what replaces him. In place of God, we created the self. Not the integrated self. Not the self that Jung called the union of conscious and unconscious. No, we worship the curated self, the persona, the brand, the illusion. Jung warned us that the persona, the mask we show the world, becomes dangerous when we begin to identify with it. And in the cult of American individualism, identification with image isn't just common, it's required. Who are you if you're not producing? Who are you if you're not optimizing? Who are you if you're not being seen? The answer in this system is terrifying. You are nothing. That's the terror Jung devoted his life to helping people face. Because if you can't face your shadow, the part of you that's ashamed, afraid, and unwanted, you'll live your entire life trying to become what you think others will accept. And Nietzsche, he saw it coming. In the death of God, he saw the rise of nihilism, a void where meaning used to live. And to escape the void, men would create false gods, ideology, power, performance. In modern America, that false god is individual success. The cult of self says, don't rely on anyone. Don't need anyone. Don't be vulnerable. Because need is weakness, because dependence is shame, because tenderness is dangerous. But that belief doesn't make you stronger. It makes you fragmented. You push people away, then wonder why you're lonely. You achieve milestones, then wonder why you still feel empty. You upgrade your life, then lie awake, wondering why nothing has changed. Jung called this spiritual inflation, when the ego takes over the domain of the soul. You become obsessed with becoming more, and in the process you forget who you were before the performance began. And the cruel joke. Even if you win in this system, you still lose. Because what you lost along the way, connection, intimacy, inner stillness, was what your soul was hungry for all along. This is not the gospel of freedom. This is the theology of ego, and it will not save you. You started the journey to become better. But somewhere along the way, healing became another show. You didn't mean to turn your pain into content. You didn't set out to brand your recovery. But in a world where visibility equals value, you started to wonder, if no one sees me healing, did it even happen? So you shared your wins. You posted your lessons. You crafted your voice. And soon, healing became another mask, a softer, wiser one, but a mask nonetheless. Because no one tells you this real healing is messy. It's unshareable. It's often invisible. Carl Jung would call it the descent into the unconscious, a private journey filled with silence, shadow, and pain that doesn't look good in a quote box. But the cult of self-improvement doesn't want that kind of healing. It wants digestible breakdowns. It wants 10 steps to reinvention. It wants the illusion of transformation without the death it requires. So you play along. You become a motivational version of your trauma. You narrate your breakthroughs before you've fully bled them. Because in this system, you're not allowed to fall apart in silence. You must market your progress. You must document your pain. You must inspire others even when you haven't yet faced yourself. But here's the truth. Healing is not aesthetic. It's not an identity. It's not a brand. It's sacred. It's chaotic. It's terrifying. And most of all, it's yours. The moment you stop performing it is the moment it finally begins. We were told autonomy was the highest good. To be independent. To be self-made. To rely on no one. But here's the truth. Autonomy without belonging isn't liberation. It's exile. You weren't made to be completely self-sufficient. You were made to be real. And being real means having limits. It means needing others. It means vulnerability, interdependence, even, God forbid, softness. But in the cult of self-softness is heresy. So you harden. You isolate. You cut off anything that threatens your image of control. And the more you do, the more you mistake numbness for strength. Carl Jung warned us the more isolated a man becomes, the less real he is. Because our psyche isn't designed to be walled off. We find wholeness in connection. We find meaning in reflection. We find peace not when we conquer the world, but when we surrender to the truth of who we are. Autonomy tells you you must never need. Authenticity tells you your need is human. And there's the crisis you've been living, as if needing others is failure, when in truth, it's the beginning of freedom. Because when you stop pretending to be a god, you get to be a man. And that man, he doesn't live for performance. He lives from presence. He doesn't wear masks of independence. He builds bridges of integrity. He isn't chasing the illusion of total control. He's practicing the art of honest surrender. That man isn't lonely in his freedom. He's grounded in his being. And that's what real liberation feels like. There's a part of you that's not looking for advice. It's looking to be seen. Not fixed, not optimized, just witnessed. But in a world that teaches you to be a fortress, to be admired but not known, you've forgotten the ancient power of presence. Carl Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. But you can't truly know your darkness in isolation, because shame thrives in silence. And real healing happens in relationship. Not in likes, not in applause, in relationship. You were never meant to carry your burdens alone. You were meant to be mirrored, to be felt, to be held. When a man breaks in the presence of another who doesn't turn away, something ancient heals. The cult of individualism tells you to journal it away, to meditate until the loneliness disappears, to coach yourself through the ache. But your nervous system wasn't designed for solitary repair. It was designed for co-regulation. That's not weakness, that's biology, that's truth. So what if you stopped apologizing for needing to be witnessed? What if you allowed someone in not to save you but to sit with you? Because the thing you fear that being known will make you less powerful is the very thing that will set you free. Power isn't built in isolation. Power is built when a man is so rooted in his truth he no longer fears being seen. And that moment when you look another in the eye and say, this is where I am, this is who I am, and I'm still worthy of love. That's not weakness. That's sacred. That's the moment the cult loses its grip on you. From the time you were a boy, you were told what it meant to be a man. Don't cry, don't ask, don't feel. And if you do it quietly, do it alone. Because real men are tough. Real men are unshakable. Real men carry pain like a badge they never show. So you learn to lock it down. You learn to translate heartbreak into humor, fear into control, sadness into silence. And they applauded you for it. You became the dependable one, the rock, the stoic. But Carl Jung warned us, what you resist not only persists, but will grow in size. And that wound you buried beneath your strength, it didn't disappear, it mutated. It became your rage, your isolation, your inability to trust, your refusal to ask for help. You thought silence made you safe, but silence made you severed. And now you don't know how to speak the language of your own heart. You don't know how to let love in without control. You don't know how to release without breaking. But you must, because the masculine wound isn't just emotional, it's generational. And until you confront it, you will pass it on to your partner, to your children, to the world around you. But there is another path. It starts when you tell the truth, I am hurting. I don't know how to do this alone. I was never taught how to feel. And in that truth, you don't become weak. You become human. You become a man with nothing left to prove and everything left to reclaim. and that is where real strength begins. You wake up tired, but you call it drive. You feel hollow, but you call it discipline. You can't remember the last time you felt joy without accomplishment, but you keep going because stopping feels like failure. This is not ambition. This is addiction. Addiction to proving your worth through doing. Addiction to never feeling enough unless you're producing. Addiction to the illusion that purpose equals productivity. But purpose isn't hustle. Purpose is meaning. And meaning doesn't demand exhaustion as proof. Carl Jung said hurry is not of the devil, it is the devil. And yet here we are sprinting toward an invisible finish line hoping burnout will lead to belonging. But burnout is not a badge. It's a message. It's your soul waving a white flag begging you to slow down long enough to ask the question you've been avoiding. Why am I really doing this? The cult of individualism doesn't care. It rewards the performance. It applauds the sacrifice. It monetizes your misery. But purpose? Purpose begins where performance ends. It lives in the quiet, in the slow, in the sacred spaces where you are no longer a machine, where you don't have to earn rest, where your worth isn't measured in milestones, where you can simply be, and that is enough. Because the most radical thing you can do in a world addicted to doing is to stop, to breathe, to be. And in that stillness, you don't lose momentum. You find yourself again. You don't leave a cult by burning it down. You leave by walking out quietly, honestly, intentionally. The cult of individualism isn't a building, it's a belief system. And the first belief you must unlearn is this, that you must earn the right to exist. You don't, you already do. Carl Jung taught that individuation, the path to wholeness, begins with disobedience. Not to rebel for rebellion's sake, but to say, I no longer serve this mask. I no longer betray my soul to belong. I no longer perform a version of me to be acceptable. The exit ritual is simple, but not easy. It means unsubscribing from the voices that profit from your insecurity. It means saying no to invitations that praise your performance but ignore your presence. It means resting without guilt, receiving without shame, revealing without fear. And most of all, it means returning to your breath, to your body, to the quiet inner knowing that doesn't scream for attention, but waits patiently for your trust. Leaving the cult doesn't mean becoming invisible. It means becoming whole, and wholeness. It doesn't need an audience. It just needs you. Power isn't how loud you are. It's how rooted you are. It's not the size of your audience. It's the depth of your alignment. You were taught to perform power, to posture, to push, to dominate. But real power doesn't seek control. It radiates presence. Carl Jung spoke of individuation as the process of becoming whole, not perfect, not invulnerable, but integrated. That's power. Not the mask you wear, but the truth you stand in. Power is saying no without guilt, asking for help without shame, owning your story without embellishment. It's being the same man in private that you are in public. It's choosing depth over attention. It's knowing who you are beyond the role you play. And here's the secret. The more real you are, the less control you need. Because presence, not performance, is what makes people listen. Trust. Follow. You don't have to convince anyone. You just have to be someone. A man who has faced himself, who knows his shadows, who doesn't flinch in silence, who doesn't lose himself in applause. That man is powerful. Not because he has no fear, but because he no longer runs from it. And that kind of power can't be bought, can't be taught, can't be taken away, because it comes from within, and it leads you back to yourself. This is not the end of the journey. It's the return, not to who you were, but to who you were before the world told you who to be. Carl Jung called this integration the reconciliation of opposites, the reunion of what you've hidden with what you truly are. This is the moment you stop worshiping the false idols of perfection, control, and applause, and start honoring the quiet, sacred voice within. It doesn't speak in metrics. It doesn't need validation. It only asks, are you present? Are you real? Are you here? You were never meant to do this alone. Not healing, not growing, not living. And now you don't have to, because the real return isn't to a belief system. It's to your humanity, your truth, your heart. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You don't have to be certain to be trustworthy. You don't have to be alone to be free. You are allowed to be seen. You are allowed to be supported. You are allowed to be whole. So let this be your reminder: you can opt out. You can come home. You can lead a life rooted in presence, not performance. And when you do, you don't just save yourself. You break the pattern for those who follow. Because your healing is not just yours. It's an invitation. So come back, we've been waiting. When you no longer need to be chosen, that's when you finally become free. Leave a comment if this spoke to the part of you that's done performing. Share this if someone you love is still trapped in the cult. Subscribe if you're ready to build something sacred. Not just another version of yourself, but your truest one. The one that was never broken, only buried. Welcome home.